Aloha, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Ukulele Underground University, Ukulele 101. Today is week number 10, and we are going to be covering picking on the ukulele. So there's a lot of you who are intermediate players who have actually been waiting for this particular lesson right here. So throughout Ukulele 101, we've been kind of discussing the fundamentals of ukulele. But now that we know how to strum and play our uke a little bit, we're going to be working on some picking techniques, okay? So just as a refresher, let's see here. Oh, what's going down with this thing?
You might have to try drag your arrow like over to the screen and then click on it, cause
oh, click on it.
Yeah. And then
there it is. There it is. Sorry, everyone. I am new to all this technology stuff. Right? Ask me anything about ukulele, I'll know it. But technology just goes right out the other end of my ear. Okay, so we're going to be doing a week 9 review, and then we're going to be discussing some left hand techniques. We're also going to be doing some combinations of those techniques that we're going to learn, and I'm going to give you a little bit of homework so you guys can pretty much practice it at home to see how well you do, so we can do some the proper adjustments. All right, and if you're a UU Plus member, you can show us videos of yourself playing, and we'll make those adjustments for you. All right, so here we go. First off, week number 9 review. I know it's been a while, but this is what we did last time. We were talking about different time signatures, okay? We were talking about 4/4 time and how to pulse, how to find the pulse, how to follow the pulse. We discussed about pulsing with quarter notes, so you can feel that 1, 2, 3, 4 rhythm. So regardless of what you're doing on your right hand of the ukulele, it's always going to be following that quarter note pulse, okay? Then we talked about taking out the rhythm, because you don't have to strum on all the rhythms down and up. You can skip a little bit to change up the rhythm, okay? We talked about adding some stuff, so taking out things and adding things like rolls and chunks. We're also talking about 3/4 time, so just like 4/4 time, but this one feels more of a waltz, okay? We're talking about pulsing with quarter notes, same thing. We also did the taking out rhythm and adding things in like rolls and chunks. Also, we talked about adding an accent to beat 1 to highlight the time signature. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this guy's got a different feel when we change the different time signatures. Okay, so if you want to watch more of that, we definitely have that on week number 9. Okay, so first off, we're going to be covering some left hand techniques. So we're talking about picking on the ukulele, and what we mean by picking on the ukulele, a lot of people refer to it as soloing, but here in Hawaii, when we grew up, we talk about it as picking. So, do you know the picking part of this song, or do you know the picking to this? It's never like instrumental, or it's never the solo part. It's always like, do you know the picking? And picking is one of those things that as we grew up in Hawaii, like we wanted to learn how to pick. We would hear these people on the radio and we're like, how is he doing all that stuff with his ukulele? So these are the basics on how to get to that level, okay? So first off, slide. Okay, you're slurring from one note to another. So let's take the note A string 3rd fret, for example. And let's use our thumb or your pointer finger or whatever finger you want. But for now, let's use our thumb. We're just going to place our thumb, the flesh of your thumb. If you have a nail, you can use the nail. But you're just going to take your thumb and just going to pluck down on your string like this. Now with your left hand, you're going from the 3rd fret, and you're going to slide your finger to the 5th fret. Okay, you can slide it on any fret that you want, but this one, we want to hear a big jump in the notes. So we're going to go from 3 to 5. So play that note. So you're just going to pluck it down once, and you're going to slide it over. You want to kind of resolve on the A string 5th fret. So you're actually getting 2 notes with 1 stroke. So you're striking it 1 time on the A string, and you're getting the 2 notes. So the A string 3rd fret and the 4th fret. So one more time. So you're just sliding it. And you can also slide down as well. Okay? And this just makes it, it gives you a little bit of a difference. Instead of just going, you can actually slur it to that next note. And here I wrote apple and kiwi. So, when you say those 2 words, like apple, like you're going from apple, like, you're cutting that note, apple, your mouth closes, and it, you have that first note, then apple, to two separate notes. You have to hit your note twice. But the word kiwi, so you don't necessarily have to close your mouth fully. So there's no break in between. So the word kiwi, it just kind of slurs kiwi, 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 as opposed to apple. And just like how you can play it, say the 5th fret and then to the 3rd fret, you can do that same thing with. So if this was apple, this would be kiwi. Okay? So just like how we covered it, you can slide up and you can slide down. You can slide to whatever note that you want. I mean, I can slide all the way up to the 8th fret if I want. So from the 3rd fret to the 8th fret. It's a big jump. I can go from 8th fret down back to the 3rd fret. So slide it wherever you want. Okay, so here's a little bit of some tips and tricks here. So if you want to add the slides, you can add just a slide, but sometimes I like to add a little bit of emphasis on the note that I'm landing in. So for example, if I'm sliding over to the 5th fret, so I will play another note to kind of highlight that note. So if I'm gonna resolve on the 5th fret, so for example, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and I wanted to kind of slide it over to that last note, so I'm sliding it over and kind of declaring that note right after. So this is one of the things that you can do to make your playing a little bit different. So these are the picking techniques that we're going to be using in order to get to that level of stuff that we hear in the radio, or whenever you see a YouTube video of someone, of a professional ukulele playing. So these are kind of the building blocks to playing like that. Okay, so slide is the first thing. Any questions so far?
Is there questions on YouTube? Because right now the chat is they're just getting in.
So. Okay, cool. All right, so while we're waiting for some questions, we can go back to that if you guys want. Let's also cover hammer on. Okay, so I want to give you guys another visual, just like how we gave you a visual for slurring, kind of like slurring your and then that apple and kiwi. The visual is going to be jumping from one note to another. Okay, so once again, the 3rd and 5th fret. So my pointer finger is going to be playing the A string 3rd fret. And my middle finger is gonna act like that. Imagine Mario jumping, like Mario jumping to on top of anything, really, on top of a block, on top of an enemy or anything like that. So imagine Mario jumping on top of the 5th fret. So you're just gonna go from here, from the 3rd fret, middle finger is just gonna hammer on and jumping to that platform right there, to the 5th fret. So same thing as a slide, you're getting 2 notes with just 1 hit. So you're hammering it on. So just like the word hammer on, think also of a hammer that you're just kind of hammering on something. So you have your nail's right here on the 5th fret. Imagine your nice little nail right there, and your middle finger is just gonna be like that hammer. It's just nailing down that nail to your fretboard. You guys need more of a visual. So you want to get that snap at the end. Do you hear that snap? So there's a little bit of noise on the left hand if you're hammering on. I mean, you can hammer on really quietly and not get that sound, but eventually you're gonna get that sound, so don't worry about it.
So that noise is coming from your left hand, and
it's from your left hand. It's nothing that you're doing wrong. That's just how it is. Because if you're gonna hammer on a finger over to your fretboard, you're always gonna make that noise. You can do it softly so that you don't hear it, but you're not gonna get that pop that you want for your hammer-ons. Okay, but it also depends on the situation. If you want a hammer-on to be a little bit more subtle, if you're playing something like Europa by Carlos Santana, it's going to be more on the mellow side. Okay, so just like jumping from one note to another, it's the same thing. You want to visualize the jump. So that's what's important here. Visualize the jump and then jump. So you're going to play one note, and then you're going to decide what note that you want to jump on. You don't necessarily have to jump 2 frets like I did. You can jump wherever, just like the slide. You can play whichever note. So we don't even have to start on 3. You can do it 5, maybe 5 to 8. So on the A string, 5 to 8, I'm going to hit the A string and then hammer on with my middle finger. You can also hammer on with your ring and pinky finger if you want, okay? Okay, so just like the slide, you can play it again to kind of just accentuate what you're playing. So when you play it again, it gives it that nice punch. So if we do Mary Had a Little Lamb, so I'm adding that. Okay, so these are your first two picking techniques that we're going to be learning. Okay, so slides and then hammer on. So you're sliding and then you're hammering things on. So the visual hammer on, jumping from one platform to another, or you want to imagine a literal hammer hammering on that nail. Okay? So any questions on that so far?
I don't know if we're gonna get questions, but it seems like the slide kind of has like a softer tone, like when you're going into it.
Yeah.
So like when you're thinking about if you're gonna play a slide or a hammer-on, is that something you have to consider? Is that like the hammer-on is gonna have that kind of like, or it could have that harder hit?
Yeah, well, the hammer-on has that snap that we're talking about. You know, it's like because of the jump, just like, you know, if you visualize the jump, your feet goes off the ground from one platform and then lands on another, okay? Whereas the slide, your feet pretty much stays on. So, you know, the feet here is our fingers. So your fingers pretty much stay on, and you're just slurring from one note to another. You're carrying also the volume of that note that you played. So if your volume stays at this volume by the time that you slide it over to the 5th fret, you know, it's going to start kind of degrading. The volume is going to go a little bit softer, and you're going to carry that softness to the next note. Listen. So it's not going to get louder, whereas a hammer-on can be a totally different volume. Because it's the hammer-on has us hitting that string one more time. Whereas with our left hand. So we're not hitting it with our right hand. It's one stroke, getting 2 notes. But the second note, since it's hammered on, we're hitting that string again, therefore making that volume, or retaining that, you know, that kind of loudness and volume. Whereas sliding over is going to retain that same volume as it goes softer. So yeah, good observation, Kai.
Well, I was just thinking, like, if somebody has a choice of a hammer-on or a slide, that's like something to consider, right? Is like, do I want this to be kind of a harder, or like to be more distinctive with the hammer-on, or do I want it to slide out with the slide? So
yeah, any other questions?
Becca asked, or she said, "Welcome back." First.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe it's because I play a standard size. I'm guessing smaller. When I hammer on at the higher range, I barely hear anything.
There's, you know, there might be an explanation for that. When you do things at a higher, at a higher octave, of course, because like the string, you know, if you're hammering on, especially like the next fret, say for example, I'm at the 14 right now, and I'm gonna hammer onto the 15. Like you can barely kind of hear it because you're shortening the string, okay? And as you shorten the string, the amount of vibration that the string is gonna have lessens. Because when you're down here, the string has a lot of room to vibrate. But as you're cutting it smaller and smaller, and you go up the neck, that vibration is not gonna be as as prominent as when you're down here. So because of the smaller vibration on your strings, you're not gonna get that volume that you would get when you're down here. So slides are okay because you're not like kind of hammering on the note to just like how we said here from 3 to 5, you're hitting that note again. So when you hit that note again, it's not gonna come out as clear as the first time, or as clear as down here because of the shortening of the string. Yeah.
What do
Hope
you?
that answers it.
Yeah, like, is there anything you can do to try and make it better? Or
You could hit it. You could hit it louder if it's possible. If it's not gonna mess up the music or the solo itself, I'll just hit it harder so that I'd get to that. Also, hitting it with your nail. So if you have a little bit of nail on your left hand, so this is where the nail becomes advantageous. You can actually use that instead of using the what is this part? This flesh part of your pad. There you go, the pad of your fingertips. Instead of using that, because the flesh is not gonna give it's not gonna give it that much of a vibration. But if you pinpoint and use your nail, like let me see if I can would have to be from this angle. Okay, so I'm using my nail here down to that string. You can kind of hear it, right? As I'm hammering on like this, because I'm using that nail. Because if I were to just use my my flesh, for example, there it is. You can't hear it. So using my flesh, but if I use my nail, you can at least hear it a little bit. So that might help.
And then just making that initial hit stronger, right?
Yeah. Okay. So that snap, you want to hear that snap. And we'll be talking about that with the next technique as well. Okay. Any other questions before we move on?
Was there any from YouTube, Aaron? Or good?
I haven't done this in so long. I don't think I even introduced the men who are in front of me right now. So, by the way, my name is Aldrin Guerrero. I know it's the middle of the lesson, but why not? My name is Aldrin Guerrero. I'm finally back. We have Aaron Nakamura, who's watching over the YouTube comments, and he's here to lend another opinion. And we also have Kahai Furrigan, that's doing all the camera work, and he's giving me all the things from the chat, the Ukulele Underground chat. So if you guys have any questions or any comments, anything like that, you can put it on the chat, and they'll relay it over to me, and I'll answer those questions to my best abilities. All right? Okay. So next up, the third technique we're going to learn today is what's called a pull-off. So it's pretty much the opposite of what we just did. So what we did is hammer on, right? So we're hammering on from one note to another. This one, excuse me, I feel like I've sneezed. Lost it. Okay, so we're doing the opposite. So instead of hammering on, we're actually going to be pulling off. So here's the visual. Imagine you're falling. Imagine falling from one note to another. You're hanging onto a ledge and you're losing your grip on one hand. So imagine you're Mufasa. Yeah, you're Mufasa from Lion King, and you're kind of just barely hanging on, and you're like, brother, like help me, and and you're slowly losing your grip. So here is Mufasa's two hands. Pointer finger is one hand on the 3rd fret. The other hand, I like to use my ring finger. You can use your middle finger, whichever one you want, is on the 5th fret. Okay, so here's his two hands. So imagine he loses grip on this. Okay, if he loses grip, he's not gonna lift up his hand. That's not losing grip, right? Losing grip means you're gonna hold onto that ledge. Oh, right here. Hold onto that ledge, and then kind of force your hand out. So that's gonna be the same exact thing. Your ring finger is gonna go on that ledge. Imagine that's Mufasa's paws. Actually, it's not even hands. It's paws. His paw is gonna go off the ledge like that. So you're gonna hear that snap one more time. So you can actually hear this without playing this. Without playing the note. But with the notes, you're gonna play that 5th fret. So you're gonna start on the 5th fret and get that other paw ready on the 3rd fret. And you're gonna get the 2 notes. So once again, it's not letting go of the ledge, which would be this. You would just lifting it up. Although you get that note, but with very, very little volume. So in this case, you're pulling down, or you're pulling off of the fretboard, or your hand is slipping off the ledge. You're losing your grip. So this one I think is going to get the most volume. Because you're pulling off with your ring finger, it's almost as if you're striking that note one more time. So you're striking the note, and you're striking the note again. It's because it's, your A string makes that noise by kind of plucking on the string. So plucking on the string down with your thumb, you're gonna pluck on that string one more time with your ring finger. Okay, so. And you can do this on any note. I'm just using 3 and 5 as examples. You can do it on 4 and 2. Okay, so just like that, pulling off. You're just pulling down. You're pulling off on those strings. You're pulling it off the fretboard. Imagine you're Mufasa and you're just on that cliff, and it's one of the saddest moments in Lion King. Okay, just like that. You're not taking your hand off. You're losing your grip, and it falls off. Okay, I was trying to think of different visuals for this, and I'm like, oh man, that Lion King one is gonna be like, oh, because it's not. You're not pulling off. You're not taking off your finger. You're pulling it off. Okay, so hopefully that helps for you folks. Any questions?
This one is. Should we do this one? It's on slides, or should we wait till the
That's fine. Yeah, I said if they had any questions, we could still do those. Yeah.
So Jack said, any tips on practicing 2-string slides? My speed and tone quality seem to really suffer when I need to slide 2 strings at the same time.
I see. That's a bit tough. Okay, so for me, whenever I'm doing 2 strings kind of songs and stuff, it's going to be like a harmonized note. Okay, so this for the beginners, don't worry about this for now. But you're gonna take 2 notes and you're gonna apply the same theory. You're gonna play the 2 notes and you're gonna slide it over. So I would use maybe A string 3rd fret, E string 5th fret as an example, and then slide those 2 bad boys up 2 frets, and then maybe slide it back down. The key here is the first stroke with your right hand has to be a volume, like a high volume, because if it's soft, like sliding it over, remember you're not gonna carry that same volume. So if you start from a volume like maybe right here, it's just gonna diminish. But if you start the volume from up here, you have a lot of stuff to work with. Okay, so what that decay in volume is gonna be a lot more. So if I hit this. So you barely heard that second one, but if I play it, you're going to hear it. So my advice will be to just kind of practice this slide right here, just 3 and 5 over to 5 and 7, then back. Just do it over and over and over again until you find like the sweet spot of how hard to hit your 2 strings with your right hand, and still getting that same kind of response from the slide. Okay.
It seems like when you're doing that slide, you really need to know what note you're gonna land on.
Yeah,
it's not like you can be unsure of like because I can see where that might, if he's not sure like where he's gonna land, then that might slip him up with his speed and his like, especially like hitting that last note, that might affect the tone, right? Like if you miss that last note. You try to like get back to it, or you try to go up to it.
It's like, it'll end up stopping the vibration if you go like too close to the fret, and then it'll cut that note short.
Yeah, you have to be pretty confident on the note.
Yeah, and precise. It's all just a matter of practice. But
yeah, that's why. So if you take this and just go back and forth, like you should.
Yeah, but I mean, like when you're doing 2 string slides, sometimes one
has to slide longer.
One has to, and you have to kind of. Yeah, practice that, because
from for example from like 2 and 3 to 3 and 5.
Yeah.
3 2 to 5 3.
Yeah. So both of them have to move at the same time, but one of them has to travel a farther distance. So
say the middle finger has to go faster than your pointer finger, so that it all lands at the same time.
It seems like even that one though, like you really hit that like the note that you slide to. It's not like and I think that really helps, is like being sure of like okay, I'm gonna go to these notes, or I know where I'm gonna go.
Yeah, because it retains the same volume from where you left off, so it's not gonna just like it's not like the pull off where you're striking that thing again, or even the hammer on where you still kind of strike it again. You're still striking it only one time and sliding, getting 2 notes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next up, any other questions?
So Moon asks, what is the advantage of pulling off rather than just playing the notes one after the other by plucking with the right hand?
It's not necessarily an advantage. It's more of a stylistic choice. Just like I was saying, like, oh, how did they get those kind of sounds? It's a totally different sound going from, say, and so it's two different sounds. Okay, so if I were to do, I could do. So it's the same notes, but I chose different sounds as a stylistic choice in order for me to get from one note to the other. So I can still go from 7 5 3 5 7 7 7, but this time I'm pulling off on 7 and revealing the 5. I guess an advantage, if we were to call it an advantage, would be that I only hit that A string one time and I got 2 notes. Aside from that, really is no advantage per se, except that it might be easier to get from from one note. In order for you to to pick every note is going to be it might be a little bit difficult in the end. For example, if you're doing something like a sweep, like, in order for you to play all those notes, it would have you would have to play. You would have to use your right hand and like kind of play a lot of the notes or hit a lot of the strings. But if you just use hammer-ons and pull-offs, it helps you do it faster.
So
I'm only hitting it like 4 times instead of 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like half the effort.
It also seems like when you're hitting each note, you get like each note cleanly.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, like, especially for I would say like blues music or like modern music, you don't want to get each note right. You want to get like the second note. You want it to kind of come off as like a little bit less clean or like a little bit less precise, where it's like, oh, it's there, but it's not like I don't know if it's like not the main focus point, or it's like it's like it's like a choice, right? Like you want it to sound that way.
Yeah, so there's no right or wrong way to play those 2 notes, but it's it's kind of a choice. It's like I said, it's a stylistic choice. That example with Mary Had a Little Lamb, you can play Mary Had a Little Lamb by going Mary had a little lamb. Or you can go, Mary had a little, instead of Mary had a little lamb. It sounds a bit too cut off like this, but you can slur it. And imagine soloing as if you were just making conversation with somebody. Making conversation with someone, your words, you have to choose, the right words. That's kind of like choosing the right notes. The fluctuation in your voice is like the kind of techniques that you would use. You don't normally always talk like this, like a robot. So we're changing it around. We're doing things like slides, hammer-ons, and pull-offs to add that character to the music. So it is not just like this, but we talk like this. Yeah. So exactly that.
I think Aaron said like with other techniques. I don't know if we covered this in 101, like vibratos and bends and stuff. Like you're trying to emulate the human voice when they're singing. So like if you think about like if you listen to a song and you hear a singer sing a song, it's not gonna come out like where it's all just like no, right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly. So those these are the reason why we use techniques to kind of spice up our playing. Okay. Also, before we move on to the next section, pull-offs and hammer-ons, completely opposite. Okay, hammer-ons you can only go up, pull-offs you can only go down. So that's the note. If you want a technique when you're going up, use hammer-ons. If you want a technique to help you out with going down the scale or down some notes, then you would use pull-offs. Okay?
Can you show it? Like, can you show the hammer-ons going up and then show the pull-offs going
up? Okay, and you can do pull-offs.
And you can use slides either way.
Use slide. Yeah, slides go either way.
There was one more question about pull-offs, and that it was more about like on the other strings because you know, you might kind of run into the next. Yeah.
Okay. So here's a little advice for those people that that are having a hard time with the other strings and are catching. The trick is using your pointer finger. So I always use my pointer finger to land on on whatever pull-offs that I'm doing. Okay, that pointer finger, if I'm say pulling off from 5 to 3 on my E string, that pointer finger right there that I'm using to play the E string 3rd fret, you can kind of see it from this angle. I'm going to use that and just kind of put it down like this. So when I play, no matter how hard I'm kind of pulling off, my pointer finger is going to defend my A string from ringing out.
So just kind of muting
that, and then even works with the C string as well. So I'm going to mute the E and the A strings, so it's from here. I'm just kind of putting it down so they don't hear the E and A strings.
So you can still kind of pull
off and pull as much as you want, and you're not going to hear it. I mean, you're going to hear that, but you're not going to hear any note. You're not going to hear like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So just kind of relax your
pointer finger down like this. You're not holding down the notes. You're just kind of hovering over those notes like this, or you're just planting your fingers on, but without pressing down.
Yeah, just lightly touching it.
I can see where somebody who's like learning, and then they learn to like be precise with their finger placement, right?
Yeah.
And they think like, oh, that applies, but like later on, that actually helps to kind of relax, right?
Yeah.
So
okay.
Jared says, I'm having trouble hitting my hammer-ons hard enough for the note to sound out. Can you help me out?
For that, I would assume it's just practice. But if it helps to kind of visualize it, and that's why I put you have to visualize for all of these. You kind of have to visualize the technique. If you visualize a hammer going on, it has to be you're trying to emulate that that hammer. If you don't add a little bit of weight behind that hammer, that nail is not going to go down. Okay, so that's not going to be hammered down. Same thing with your hammer-on. If you don't add weight to that, to that finger that you're using, and really hammering it onto your fretboard, don't worry about ruining your fretboard. It's not gonna, doing hammer-ons to your ukulele is not gonna harm your fretboard. So don't worry about hammering it on with authority, I would say, right? So add some weight in there. That would be my advice. And if you're already doing that, it takes a little bit of practice to get the right amount of weight or a right amount of pressure on the next note in order for you to hit a nice and clean hammer-on. And pull-offs as well. So make sure you hear that snap, because if you're not hearing that snap, then that means there's not enough weight behind the finger.
It seems like with that motion, it's mostly your first segment or your first knuckle, right?
Yeah.
You're closing your hand basically.
Yeah.
And it's not like you.
Yeah.
I think
kind of keeping that arch.
Yeah, the arch.
And using your fingertip to
hammer on.
I think some people might be trying to use the rest of their finger, right? And it's if you do that, you don't get quite that precise snap.
Yeah. And it also has to do with the speed that your finger is moving to. So I don't know. You can play around with a bunch of those things.
It's all in practice
and see what works for you.
You you said you can use any fingers to do hammer-ons and pull-offs. And I think it's good to practice, but there are definitely some fingers that would
work better.
Yeah. That, especially if Jared is trying it out. You might want to try his other fingers to see if there's one that's stronger. Or weaker.
That makes sense. I mean, for example, if you're hammering on, say, from your ring to your pinky finger, you might not get that snap. I mean, my fingers are pretty strong and it gets that snap, but I would imagine for a beginner who's not really used to using their ring and pinky finger to do things, it might be a little bit difficult.
I was thinking especially if you're hammering on from just going one fret up, and you use your ring finger, your pointer and ring finger, that doesn't really make sense because it's a wider space, right?
Yeah.
So you would use your middle finger, or there's just things to consider like that.
But not saying that it doesn't work. I mean, not saying that your your pinky finger is not going to be good for hammer-ons. It works, but it's just not going to be as loud as your other stronger fingers.
I think that's just something to figure out.
Yeah. because it's about feel. I mean, you know, I don't know how big or small your hands are going to be, but yeah, it's more practice. You know, just like with any kind of exercise or any kind of skill, the more you do it, the better it gets. Okay.
Do you even need to like for if you want to practice that? Do you need to? I mean, I guess you do. Like you want to hear the note, but I can imagine that just practicing that hammer-on motion, right, would help like build up your.
And I mean at the end of the lesson we have a little exercise that you guys can do with these. Okay. So next, we're going to be doing some combinations. So you learn 3 different things. Now what we want to do is we want to combine those things that we just learned, okay? And first off, let's take a look at the slide. So let's take the slide and let's mix it with the hammer and let's mix it with the pull. So slide, hammer, and reverse. So you can slide and then hammer. So I'm getting 3 notes with 1 stroke. So I'm using 3, 5, and 7 for this one. So I'm gonna slide from 3 to 5 and then hammer on to 7. So we're just combining techniques. That's your normal 1 o'clock 1 o'clock siren. We always get our sirens here. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, and same thing, reverse. So you know, you can do reverse from 5 to 3 and then hammer back. Okay, so you can do slide hammer and reverse slide hammer. So reverse slide and then hammer. So you can do up or down. Okay, and then same thing with slide pull. So you want to slide and then pull. So for example, I'm using my ring finger this time to slide from 3rd fret to 5th fret. My pointer finger gets ready on the 3rd fret and then pull. So like this. Or if you want, you know, just get that pointer finger ready there. Maybe just slide it down here like this. So you're sliding up, then pulling off. Okay, and same thing with reverse. You can do this, or maybe to open if you want. So you can slide down and then pull off. Okay, so you can combine these techniques. So that's just slide combined with the other 2 techniques that we learned. So slide hammer and slide pull. That's what it's called. Next, we have hammer on. Okay, so our hammer on, let's mix it with the slide. We have a hammer slide. So this time the hammer is first and then the slide. So you want to hammer on and then you slide. So from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret, hammer on, then slide over to the 7th fret or whichever fret you want. Okay, so hammer pull. This is one of the most common combinations, the hammer pull. So you hammer it on and you pull it right off. So you hammer it on and then you pull it right off. So imagine Scar or imagine Mufasa trying to climb up. So he's trying to hammer on his paws and then it slides right off, or it pulls right off. So see those 2 paws one more time. You're gonna try to hang on, but oh no, Scar. Okay, so I say that that's the most common combination that we have because you know, a lot of music that, you know, based on my personal experiences, I use that a lot more than the other ones. So hammer pulls, when I was learning how to play guitar, slack key guitar and you know, and then ukulele, we learned the hammers, pull-offs, and hammer pulls, and that kind of combination. But the hammer pulls, you know, we do a lot of so we do a lot of that stuff in slack key. So hammer pull, very, very, very common, very important to learn. Okay, and that's like combining the 2, because sliding is not that difficult. But I would see how people would have a hard time with hammer-ons and pull-offs. So you're combining those 2, you know, not so easy techniques and putting them together. Okay. Next up is a pull-off. So let's work on the pull-offs. So pull, slide. So you're doing pull. So you're pulling off from the 5th fret to the 3rd fret, and you can slide it up. or you can slide it down if you want. Da-da-dun, da-da-dun. What is that, like Sports Center or whatever? Okay, so that's technically a pull slide in that riff. And we also have pull hammer, so you're pulling it off and then hammering it back on. So the one thing to know about these combinations is that you don't necessarily have to stay on those notes. So for example, with the pull slide, or no, pull hammer that I did, so you can pull off and you can hammer onto a different note if you want. Same thing with the hammer pull. So if I'm hammering it on, I can pull off for the second fret if I want. Okay, that one's a little bit more difficult, but you can do that. You can change up the notes, however you want. So when you do slide hammers in reverse and whatnot, you can kind of do it, in any note that you want. And notice that the reverse only is on this slide, okay? Because you can't do a reverse hammer on. That would be called a pull off, right? So there's no reverses on here, but this is reverse. You can either slide up or you can slide down. Okay, questions? Combinations.
Well, you can also do like pull.
Yeah, you can do pull. Yeah.
Because that seems to happen a lot in
right.
picking and.
Yeah.
Or like.
Yeah, you can do that. Slide. But that's not really a combination of the two. It's just like the same one doing it twice.
Yeah. Or it's like, but it's like multiple notes. You wanna.
Yeah.
Think of those combinations.
Yeah.
It seems like when you're doing hammer pull or pull hammer, you really, even though you're doing them with one right hand hit, right? Yeah. You still want that two, like left hand, like the hammer and the pull off, like the noise from those two, right? That extra ting or the extra thing.
I gotta give credit where credit is due again. These terms and stuff, I had mentioned that I learned some slack key. But I had actually, I met up with Hal Kinnaman, the same person who gave us the, if you guys have ever seen us on tour, but the spider exercises and stuff. Same person who, who taught me that is the same person who taught me all the, the terms, slides, hammers, and pull-offs and stuff. It's all him. Back in the day when I was just playing my ukulele, I didn't know what a hammer on or pull-off was. I just kind of did the technique. But it wasn't until Hal Kinnaman kind of showed me, like what these things are, and just kind of showed me that like, oh, these things are called this, and you can combine it with that, and that's kind of just expanded my mind. It's a little bit of a fun fact, or give credit where credit is due. Hal. All right. So, homework, or any questions on that? Anybody got any questions on that?
Alan asked, if this is 101, what's in store when we get to 102 and 103?
Oh, so I had mentioned before that the point of 101 is after you're done with 101, you could go to most of the things that we have over on Ukulele Underground monthly song lessons, or song lessons, I should say. The song lessons have strumming, it has the chords, it has a picking pattern. So after 101, you can play strumming, chords, and picking patterns. So simple picking patterns like this. After 102, you're basically going to be able to play all those songs. And after 103, you're basically going to be able to play all the solo songs that we have over on UU+. So that's the measuring stick. It's like, can you play all, like most of the songs on the song lessons? Then go watch 101. Can you play all of them? No? Then watch 102. Can you do all the songs and the solos? Then watch 103. That's the most spoilers that I can give as far as what 102 and 103 is going to look like.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're even going to have 103. We're going to call it something else, like 201 maybe. Yeah.
Well, like 101 is like getting you started and then getting you comfortable enough to be playing songs, basically, right?
Yeah. So if you guys wanted a fast track onto getting the ukulele and playing the songs that we offer here in Ukulele Underground, definitely 101. It would be my first stop. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions before we move on to the last thing?
There's something like, I don't know if there's much to go over, but we kind of like, you kind of briefly went over it. Is if you're doing a hammer on, or if you're doing something where you're going from the open string to a note, or like you're going from a note to the open string.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you have to take into account with that? Because you're not going from like, your ring finger to your pointer finger.
Nothing special. It's actually easier if you're hammering on from an open note, or you're pulling off to an open note or open string. It's going to be a lot easier. So for example, instead of me holding down my pointer finger for the 3rd fret and hammering onto the 5th fret, if I'm hammering on from 0 fret to 5th fret, it's just like open and then pulling off. I can do this all day, like if it doesn't take much of an effort to do, I guess. Instead of using two fingers, I only have to worry about one and my position on one. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's very important to do that, especially in ukulele. We have a lot of like banjo-like techniques in the ukulele, so you're doing a lot of that stuff. So doing hammer-ons and pull-offs from the 0 position is actually pretty important. Okay, so any other questions?
I think I'm good.
Oh, there was one about just like you're changing your grip for hammer-ons. I'm not too sure what he was asking specifically, but if there's a difference in the way that your grip changes.
Is it like compared to when you're playing regular notes maybe, or like when you're not doing hammer-ons, you're just playing one note after the other?
I don't. Sure. I mean, at least I'm not aware, but I don't know if I do any kind of like special positioning, for my fingers, other than when I was talking about muting the strings with the E and the C string. Okay, for those which on that note, for those beginners, you don't have to do that practicing with the with the E string and then muting the A string, because most of the songs that that you're going to be playing as a beginner anyway, most of those melody lines are going to be on the A string. If we do somehow do things on the on the E string, then that's when you kind of practice the mute with your left hand. But for the most part, stick to doing these techniques on the A string.
And then your thumb pretty much just stays behind the neck.
Because I can do it from here, or like if I can even put my thumb up here. So there's no special positioning. It's just whatever feels comfortable for you. Yeah. Because this is just one example. Yeah, there's gonna be different jumps. So it depends on what note that you're playing. That's when you change your position. So there isn't one position that your hand should be in. In order to play like all the hammer-ons and all the pull-offs. The pull-offs and the hammer-on, your hand position is going to change depending on what note. But even if you're not doing hammer-ons and pull-offs, if you're playing, say, this note to this note, if you're making that jump, like my thumb has to be back here. My thumb cannot be up here anymore, because it's a weird. My hands kind of like got
just
this going on.
Find a comfortable
spot
and then.
Yeah. So it's not just on pull-offs and hammer-ons and slides and stuff, but depending on what notes you have to play, you have to kind of change your position on your of your hand.
Are they gonna be like is hammer-ons and pull-offs harder with when you go to like the E string and the C string, because you kind of have to go farther up with your fingers itself, right? So is it like is that something to consider too? Like it's just like, or you might find that you have more difficulty doing it on the C and E string,
Yeah, it is a little bit more difficult, because you have strings that kind of get in the way. But without doing that muting thing that that I was talking about, you can still do like hammer-ons on the E string. Just stay clear of the A string. You can still hammer on the C string as long as you stay clear from the E and A strings. So you don't necessarily have to be doing that muting thing unless you're doing some some crazy pull-offs anyway, because you can still do pull-offs, even if you hear that A. Another advice that I can kind of give to you folks, if you're using your nail, you can also like use the nail on that string and use the flesh, so what's like our rest stroke. We learned rest strokes on our last 2-3 lessons ago. So rest strokes, if you want to do that, that also helps to mute the string below it. So if I'm doing pull-offs on the E string, if I rest note on the A string, you're not going to hear that A. So it's like this. So So that's another one. So if you don't want to do that advanced kind of muting on the left hand, you can just stick to the same, the same thing that you did on your A string, but using rest strokes.
And you can do like all these things on the all the strings, right? But we don't really talk about like the G string, because like if you're gonna play those notes, you're gonna play them on the A string. Anyways, right? Usually. So.
Yeah. The G, as far as re-entrant goes, it's there for as fill-ins and ghost notes and stuff. But you guys don't have to worry about that for now. For now.
Okay.
Until we're ready to show you those things. This is joking, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. Here is the last bit of stuff that we have for you. We do have homework. So use each string, G, C, E, and A. I know Kai just said we don't really use the G string, but I want you guys to do this as just practice. I know you're not going to be doing it in application, but just to practice with it is not such a bad idea. Okay, so on each string, you're going to practice slides, hammers, pulls, and combinations. And here are the frets that you're going to be doing them in. This is what's called a scale. So you're playing basically an A scale. On your A string, you're playing an E scale on your E string, C scale on your C string, G scale on your G string. Okay, so this is what I mean by this. So you're gonna play 0. Then you're gonna slide. You're gonna play that note, and you're just gonna slide to the 2nd fret. Play the 2nd fret, slide over to the 4th fret. Play the 4th fret, slide over to the 5th fret. Play the 5th fret, slide over to the 7th fret. Play the 7th fret, slide over to the 9th fret. Play the 9th fret, slide over to the 11th fret. Play the 12th fret, slide over to the 11th fret, slide over to the 12th fret. So it's going to sound like this. You can slide down. Okay, next you want to do hammer on. So you're hammering on from 0 to 2, then 2 to 4, then 4 to 5, then 5 to 7. So on and so forth. And then you can do pull-offs. So pull-offs, because you can't go up, you're going to do hammer-ons going up and then pull-offs going down. Okay, so hammer-on going up, then pull-offs going down. That is your homework for this week. So 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12. And optional, if you want to do what I mentioned earlier, record yourself and post your homework over onto the UU Plus forums, and we'll give you a nice student evaluation for this week. All right, and that means we're gonna go over your video, we're gonna watch it, and we're gonna give you guys the right advice to be correcting things. If there's something that that you're doing that might need some work, we're gonna help you out with that. Okay, so sign up for UU Plus to get this perk right here.
So it's the same with each string, right? You're using the same frets.
Yeah.
Can you like show that? Like show.
Oh yeah.
Show them going like.
Or you can do combos if you want. That's combos as well. So I'm doing hammer-ons and slides. Okay, so you do it all in all strings, okay? Alright, folks, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Sorry about my absence. I'm back now, and we have 2 more weeks left in UU 101. So next week, we're going to be doing singing and playing. So just like I said, after 101, you're going to be able to play most of the things over on the song lessons on Ukulele Underground, okay? So we're going to be talking in rhythm. So one thing about singing is using your vocals, right? You're using your voice. So talking in rhythm, if we can talk in rhythm, then that must mean, we just have to add notes to the words that we're saying. And having a conversation, but in rhythm. And we're going to be strumming our favorite songs and learning some stuff, okay? So that's gonna be for next week. So we're just gonna wrap it up really nicely and teaching you guys how to sing and play at the same time. So we're working mainly on rhythm, okay, and talking, speaking, singing in rhythm, and doing, you know, like doing this crazy dance that we do of like patting your head, rubbing your stomach at the same time, playing your ukulele and singing at the same time is going to be what's for next week. All right, and after that we're just gonna have a nice little final review for our 12th week. 12th week. We're gonna be doing a review on all 10 lessons. Okay, so that's gonna wrap it up in a nice little bow, and that will be the end of Ukulele 101. But I just want to thank you guys for watching, for being supportive of Ukulele Underground. I hope you guys have enjoyed this so far. We have one more, so stick around. Also stick around if you guys are UU Plus subscribers, because we have Thursday live lessons, which means we're going to be answering any and all of your questions. So it doesn't even have to be about the Ukulele 101 stuff. It can be about anything. You guys can send us videos and stuff like that. We'll do some student evaluations in here as well, but mainly we're going to answer any and all of your questions. All right, so UU Plus members, stick around. Thursday live lessons is on 2:30 p.m. So in about half an hour, we're going to start Thursday live lessons. Thank you folks so much for tuning in. On behalf of myself, Aaron Nakamura, Kai Fergan, we'll see you folks next week. Same time, same place, 1 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, Thursdays. Also, 1 p.m. tomorrow is going to be the Friday, the Aloha Friday live jams. I haven't done one of those in a while as well, so please join us for some fun. We're just going to jam some songs and have some fun to kind of greet the weekend. Okay, we'll see you folks next time. Have a great one. Aloha.